Welcome to the MarketRent Weekly Brief, your go-to source for the latest insights and updates in the real estate market. Each week, we'll bring you the most important news and trends to help you stay informed and make smart decisions. Let's dive into this week's episode.
Okay, so today we're going to dive into something that's super relevant for anyone in the multifamily world.
Definitely.
We're talking about what renters are really looking for these days.
Yeah. You know what? Amenities are really going to attract people to a property.
Exactly. And specifically, we're going to focus on two key demographics, young adults and families.
Right. Those are two really important renter segments for a lot of properties.
Absolutely. And we've got some fresh data from recent industry reports that shed some light on this.
Yeah, there's some really interesting insights that we're going to dig into.
So our goal today is basically to figure out what makes these two groups tick.
Yeah, like what are their must-haves when it comes to choosing a place to live?
Right, because that's going to really impact decisions for developers, owners, property managers.
Absolutely. Knowing what renters want is key to staying ahead of the curve.
Okay, so let's jump right in and start with young adults.
Sounds good.
We're talking Gen Z and younger millennials here.
Right, that kind of tech-savvy generation.
Exactly. So what's the overarching theme when it comes to their amenity preferences?
I think the big thing is they're looking for a lifestyle that's connected, flexible, heavily influenced by technology, convenience, and that sense of community.
Okay, connected, flexible. Those are definitely buzzwords we hear a lot.
Yeah, and for good reason. I mean, these are people who've grown up with smartphones, social media, instant access to information, and that shapes their expectations for their living spaces.
Right, they want their apartment to be an extension of that digital world.
Exactly.
But let's talk tech, because that seems like a pretty obvious starting point.
Sure.
And I think it's safe to say that high-speed internet is no longer a luxury. It's like a utility now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's right up there with air conditioning and hot water.
And the data backs that up. 90% of young adults say high-speed internet is vital.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, and think about it, with so many people working remotely, at least part-time, a reliable internet connection is essential for their jobs.
That's a really good point. It's not just about streaming Netflix anymore. It's their livelihood.
Right, it's about being able to work from home, effectively attend Zoom meetings, all that.
Yeah, their apartment has to be a functional workspace too.
Exactly, and it goes beyond just having fast internet. We're also seeing a surge in demand for smart home features.
Oh, yeah, those are becoming super popular.
Things like smartphone control, door locks, smart thermostats, app-based building, access, all that.
Yeah, it's all about convenience and control.
Right, and even something like having strong cellular coverage throughout the property is a big deal.
Yeah, 86% of young adults say they expect no dead zones.
It's like you said, they want to be connected all the time.
Absolutely.
And what's really interesting is that they're willing to pay more for these tech integrations.
Oh, yeah. They definitely see the value in it.
It's directly impacting their leasing decisions and ultimately driving rental rates.
So for property owners, it's really worth investing in that tech infrastructure.
Absolutely. It can give you a competitive edge.
For sure.
Now, we talked about remote work and how that's changing things.
Yeah, it's a whole new ballgame.
So how has that specifically influenced what young adults are looking for in an apartment?
Well, for one thing, co-working spaces are becoming increasingly important.
Okay, so it's not just about having a desk in your apartment. You want dedicated spaces within the community.
Exactly, and not just some afterthought like a couple of chairs in a corner.
Right, it needs to be a well-designed, functional space.
Yeah, with good Wi-Fi, comfortable seating, maybe even some private offices or meeting rooms.
And ideally, it can transition into a social hub after work hours.
Right, so it's kind of a multi-purpose space.
Exactly. It's about blurring the lines between work and life.
Yeah, creating a space that can adapt to their needs throughout the day.
So the apartment isn't just a place to sleep anymore. It's also an office, a social space.
It's a hub for their whole life.
Okay, now let's move beyond tech for a minute.
Okay.
What about more traditional amenities like gyms and social spaces?
Those are still really important.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty standard in most apartment communities these days.
But they're not just a checkbox item. They have to be well-maintained and appealing.
Right, so a modern fitness center, a nice pool area, maybe a lounge or game room.
Exactly. And it's not just about the physical amenities, it's also about the social aspect.
Okay, so creating opportunities for residents to connect with each other.
Exactly. Things like community events, resident happy hours, ways to foster that sense of community.
Yeah, because for a lot of young adults, especially those who are new to a city, that can be really valuable.
Definitely. It's a way to meet people, make friends feel like they belong.
And it can really impact their overall satisfaction with the property.
Absolutely.
Okay, Let's talk about something that I think a lot of us can relate to.
What's that?
The never-ending stream of online deliveries.
Oh, yeah, the package problem.
It's a real thing. And for young adults who are super tech savvy and used to instant gratification, it's a major pain point.
Yeah, nobody wants to worry about their packages being stolen or left out in the rain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how are apartment communities addressing this?
Well, secure package receiving systems are becoming a must-have.
Okay, like package lockers or dedicated package room.
Right, and they can be really sophisticated with things like smartphone notifications and 24/7 access.
So it's all about convenience and security.
Exactly, and it's a relatively simple amenity that can make a big difference for residents.
Now, despite all these great amenities, location is still a huge factor.
Oh yeah, location, location, location.
Especially for young adults who are often drawn to vibrant, walkable neighborhoods.
Great, they want to be close to the action.
Restaurants, cafes, bars, shops, all that.
And ideally, they can walk or bike to get there.
Exactly. It's about that urban lifestyle.
Yeah, and it's also about reducing their environmental impact.
Right. More and more young adults are eco-conscious and want to live sustainably.
Absolutely.
It's not just about the human residents. Pet-friendly policies are becoming increasingly important, too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially for Gen Z.
They're the biggest pet-loving generation yet.
And they're not going to settle for just any pet policy.
Right, they want to know about breed restrictions, size limits, pet amenities, all that.
So it's definitely something that property owners need to consider.
Yeah, if you're not pet-friendly, you could be missing out on a lot of potential renters.
Okay, so we've talked about some general preferences for young adults.
Yeah, kind of the big picture.
But it's important to remember that there are regional variations.
Oh yeah, definitely. Different parts of the country have different priorities.
So let's take a quick tour of some key regions and see what stands out.
Sounds good.
Let's start with the major tech hubs and coastal cities.
Like Seattle, San Francisco, San Jose.
Exactly. What are we seeing there?
Well, as you might expect, there's a huge emphasis on technology and sustainability.
Okay, so cutting-edge tech amenities and things like EV charging stations.
Exactly. Those are really attractive to the young professionals who are flocking to these cities.
And it makes sense those areas tend to be early adopters of new technology.
Right, they're on the cutting edge.
Okay, what about the urban Northeast?
So cities like New York and Boston.
Yeah, those are notoriously expensive and crowded.
Yeah, space is definitely at a premium there.
So what are young adults prioritizing in those markets?
Location and convenience are key.
Okay, so walkability, access to public transportation.
Exactly. They're willing to sacrifice space for a prime location.
And it's not just about convenience. It's also about that urban lifestyle.
Right, being in the heart of the action.
Okay, and lastly, let's talk about the Midwest.
Sure.
Cities like Chicago and Minneapolis.
Yeah, those are interesting markets.
What are we seeing there?
Well, one thing that stands out is the demand for indoor co-working spaces.
Okay, so even more so than in other regions.
Yeah, and often with private offices too.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. The colder climate definitely plays a role.
Right, when it's freezing outside, you want to be able to work from home comfortably.
Exactly. And there's also a strong professional population in those cities.
So people who are used to working in an office environment and want that same level of privacy and focus.
Yeah, they want a dedicated space where they can be productive.
Okay, so that's a good overview of young adult renters.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
Now let's shift gears and talk about families.
All right.
Typically, we're talking about people in their 30s and 40s with young children.
Right, that stage of life where your priorities really change.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So what are the key things that families are looking for in an apartment community?
Well, I think the big difference is that for families, the apartment is their home base.
Okay, so it's not just a place to crash. It's where they're raising their kids.
Exactly. And that means their amenity preferences tend to be more practical and focused on things that make family life easier.
Okay, so what are some of those practical must-haves?
Well, space and storage are always top of mind.
Yeah, I can imagine kids come with a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, toys, clothes, strollers, the list goes on.
So walk-in closets, extra storage space, those are really important.
Absolutely. And in some markets like Dallas, over half of family renters specifically look for walk-in closets.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a big deal for them.
And it's not just about in-unit storage. They also need communal storage options.
Right, like storage lockers or bike rooms.
Especially if they're living in a smaller unit.
Exactly. Every little bit of space helps.
Now, another thing that families need is in-unit laundry.
Oh, yeah. That's practically non-negotiable.
I can only imagine trying to do laundry for a whole family at a shared facility.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Lugging all those clothes back and forth. dealing with other people's messes.
And trying to keep the kids entertained while you wait.
Right. It's just not practical.
So in-unit laundry is a huge time saver and stress reliever for families.
And the data shows that 93% of family renters say it's a top priority.
Yeah, it's a major selling point.
Okay, so space and laundry are covered. What else is high on the list for families?
Safety and security are paramount.
Of course, they want to know that their kids are safe.
Exactly. So things like controlled access, entry, well-lit parking areas, security cameras, those are all really important.
And they also want to be in a safe neighborhood.
Right, with low crime rates, good schools, parks, all that.
So it's about creating a secure environment, both within the property and in the surrounding area.
Exactly. They want that peace of mind.
Now, beyond those basic safety features, what about amenities that are specifically designed for kids?
Those are definitely a big draw for families.
Like what kinds of things?
Well, playgrounds are always popular, even if it's just a small tot lot.
Right. Gives the kids a place to run around and burn off energy.
Exactly. And indoor play areas are great too, especially in areas with bad weather.
Yeah, it keeps them entertained no matter what's going on outside.
And then there are things like community rooms that can be used for birthday parties or other gatherings.
Right. So it's about creating spaces where families can connect and socialize.
Exactly. And it's not just about the amenities within the property itself.
Okay, so what about the surrounding area?
Well, proximity to good schools is a huge factor for families.
Of course, they want their kids to have access to quality education.
And easy access to parks and playgrounds is important too.
Yeah, it gives them a place to get some fresh air and exercise.
And then there are things like childcare facilities and after-school programs.
Right, those can be really helpful for working parents.
Absolutely. It's all about making life a little bit easier for families.
Okay, so we've talked about safety, kid-friendly amenities. What else is important for families?
Well, there are a lot of little things that can make a big difference in their day-to-day lives.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, ample parking is essential.
Yeah, families often have multiple cars.
Exactly. And they might have visitors coming and going, so having enough parking spaces is crucial.
And covered parking could be a big plus too, especially in areas with extreme weather.
Right. Protects their cars from the elements.
And then there are things like elevators.
Oh, yeah. Those are a lifesaver for families with strollers.
I can imagine trying to navigate stairs with a stroller and a bunch of groceries.
Yeah, it's not fun.
And ground floor units are also popular with families.
Definitely makes it easier to get in and out.
And then there are more practical considerations, like energy-efficient appliances
Right. Helps them save money on their utility bills.
and durable, easy-to-clean finishes.
Yeah. Kids can be messy.
So you want something that can withstand a little wear and tear.
Exactly.
Okay, so just like with young adults, we see some regional variations in what families are looking for.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's start with the Sun Belt and suburban family-oriented markets.
Places like Dallas-Fort Worth, Miami, Houston, Tampa, St. Petersburg.
Yeah, those are all popular with families.
And in those areas, outdoor amenities are really important.
Okay, so things like swimming pools, playgrounds, barbecue areas.
Exactly. And covered parking is a must in those hot climates.
Right. Keeps the cars cool and protects them from the sun.
And in Dallas specifically, there's a huge emphasis on in-unit storage.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
It's a big deal for families there.
Okay, what about the Midwest?
Well, the Midwest is interesting because it tends to be a mix of young professionals and families.
So you see a demand for both co-working spaces and family-friendly amenities.
It's exactly kind of a hybrid market.
And lastly, what about the West Coast and Mountain West?
Well, in those areas, access to private outdoor space is highly valued.
Okay, so balconies, patios, yards.
Exactly. And natural light is important too.
Yeah, those areas get a lot of sunshine,
And there's often a focus on recreation-focused amenities.
like hiking trails or fitness centers.
Right. Those appeal to the active lifestyles of many families in those regions.
And energy efficiency and air filtration are also considerations.
Yeah, especially with concerns about wildfires and air quality.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we've really delved into the preferences of young adults and families.
And I think it's clear that there are some key takeaways for property owners and developers.
Definitely.
So let's break it down. What are some actionable strategies for attracting young adults?
Well, first and foremost, you need to prioritize technology.
Okay, so make sure you have robust internet infrastructure throughout the property.
Absolutely. And consider incorporating smart home features.
Right. Those are becoming more and more expected.
And create flexible multi-purpose spaces that can adapt to different needs.
Like a co-working space that can also be used for social events.
Exactly. And don't forget about convenience innovations like seamless package management.
Yeah, those little things can make a big difference.
And lastly, focus on building community.
Okay, so host events create opportunities for residents to connect.
Exactly. Make it a place where people want to live and interact.
And what about families? What are the key things to keep in mind when designing for them?
Well, for families, it's all about excelling at the essentials.
Okay, so make sure you have in-unit laundry dishwashers, air conditioning,
Those are non-negotiables for most families.
and prioritize safety and security. Well-lit areas, controlled access, all that.
And create multifunctional community spaces that can be used for a variety of purposes.
Like a homework center or a gathering space.
Exactly. And consider offering family-friendly programming and services.
Like after-school care or summer camps.
Those can really enhance the resident experience.
And of course, location is always important.
Yeah, make sure you're in a safe neighborhood with good schools and parks.
Okay, now for properties that are trying to appeal to both young adults and families, how do you strike that balance?
Well, strategic zoning of amenities is important.
Okay, so keep the noisy areas separate from the quiet areas.
Exactly. And emphasize shared priorities like security, convenience, and high-quality appliances.
Right. Those are things that everyone appreciates.
And design flexible spaces that can adapt to the evolving needs of the community.
So a space that can be used for co-working during the day and family gatherings in the evening.
Exactly. And always be mindful of the local context.
Okay, so consider the amenities that are already available in the neighborhood.
And tailor your offerings to the specific needs of your target market.
So the big takeaway here is that successful properties are the ones that truly understand the needs of their residents.
Absolutely. It's not just about providing a roof over their heads. It's about creating a community where people feel comfortable and connected.
And that requires paying attention to the details and going beyond the standard amenity checklist.
Exactly. You have to think about the whole resident experience.
So for all the developers, owners, and property managers out there, I challenge you to think critically about your properties.
Yeah. Are you meeting the evolving needs of your target demographics?
Are you creating spaces that foster community and enhance the lives of your residents?
Because ultimately, that's what's going to drive success in the multifamily market.
So use these insights to inform your next development or renovation project and create a community that people are proud to call home.
That's it for this week's edition of the Market Rent Weekly Brief. To access more insights and resources, visit marketrent.us. Thank you for listening. To learn more about how Clarendon can help you achieve your real estate goals, please visit us online. We appreciate your trust in us as your go-to source for market intelligence. Our goal is to equip you with the critical insights and data necessary to make informed decisions. Until next time, stay informed and stay ahead.